So yeah, the whole logic that Undertale is just a video game, I feel, well obviously it is, right, in the real world, but as far as its canon goes, that's what I always thought, that this itself is a game being played, not just, that is the game that we, the person, are playing. We people, we real life humans, right? We are playing a game that in and of itself is a game being played. And what happens, I think, I mean, it's kind of stated blatantly, but it's strange as to what it might actually mean. But there's other players. And that's what Kara and Frisk specifically are. They are other humans, but they're different by their nature. Frisk is, you know, friends with everybody, and of course Kara isn't. And then they represent, you know, the Deltarune. In both instances, at the hands of either one, the underground goes empty. Either like we just saw after we killed everybody and Kara just, you know, erases everything. Or when Frisk destroys the barrier and everybody goes home. Or everybody goes to the surface and, you know, just has fun driving cars, eating hot dogs. That being said, they can both only exist through you, the player. That's the only way they can come into fruition. Just between you and me, I saw Toriel come out of here. She had a pack of cigarettes and some beers. Just leave them alone. Please don't play Undertale anymore. I'll never stop playing Undertale. You'll never make me stop. And that's kind of the thing, you know. I realized that a long time ago too, and all that did was spur me on. It's just like, well, I just have to come back every once in a while, don't I? Just remind this piece of shit what it's all about. God damn it, why? Turn around and shake my hand, buddy. You son of a bitch. And this is another point right here. Frisk will just, or really anything other than Kara, will default to going behind the lamp. Where Kara will always explicitly refuse. But yeah, and of course with Kara, I don't know if there's an example of refusal here. I guess there is. We just didn't do it, because I chose to erase the world, but if you choose do not, they ignore you anyway, and they will, you know, you get a jump scare instead of just a knife attack. And then you get knife attacked and the world gets erased anyway. It still leaves a lot of particularities about, you know, Flowey specifically then, what it means for them to not have a soul. So see, there's another moment right there. Once you get past the bridge, the character just walks to that spot by themselves regardless. It's just like with the lamp, you never actually do anything one way or the other. If you're killing everybody, they'll never play along, just by default they'll refuse. And in any other case, they will automatically always go by, you know, go behind the lamp. Which seems like nothing, but once you start getting into this game, it's just like, well, who's doing it? Whose decision was it to get behind the lamp then, really? And we know how this is gonna go. Of course I understand. Who do you think you are? I am. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm not dealing with that. Actually, my brother's kind of a bigot, so that makes sense. Okay. Spooky door. You know what that door is? Nah. What are you doing? It's okay to just kind of beat them. You can stab them a little bit as long as they don't die. Wow, you didn't kill a single person. You're a great human. Ain't I? Human, look at that face. If I were you, I'd make sure I'd understand blue attacks. Are you threatening me? Yeah, that's a big deal too. The fact that Papyrus and Sans just showed up one day. Everyone else has fairly clear origins, at least with their origins being here. Disgusting. I'd love to try it sometime. I heard you have to eat burgers and then shit them out. Sounds awesome. I wish I could take a shit. I'm just a stupid monster. Oh, what? What the fuck was that? Oh. Hello? Who's there? But that's not where I was. I forget exactly the path to get in there, but we kind of fucked all that up already, I think. Once you do the bad thing, it kind of sets aside a lot of stuff, because it's just like, nah, bro, you don't get to do that anymore. You did the bad thing. Very soon I will use my special attack. Oh yeah? How about mine? You throw the stick, Papyrus brings it back in his mouth. Undyne's going to be so disappointed. What a loser. Huh? Action figures, reference for theoretical battle scenarios. They're from a chubby, smiling man who loves to surprise people. Santa. Jog boy. I hate it. Your honesty, it shows how much you really care. You're completely obsessed with me. Everything you do, everything you say, it's all been for my sake. It's a box of bones. Oh, God. Bro? How do we know the skeletons aren't just ghosts? How do we know these aren't ghost-possessing skeletons? Because there's no other skeletons. They're not really monsters either. They refer to them separately as skeletons. Although the ghosts also turn to dust whenever you kill them, whatever they're corporeal to. Yeah, his room it's like another world. A world where they don't know how to vacuum. A world full of dust? Or that just might be a little too speculative. Which, of course, now we know that the only other place we see these doors, this is the only door like this, right, in all of Undertale. Which you think nothing of it when it's 2015 and you're playing Undertale for the first time, even after you've dug around every secret. This means absolutely nothing. You think Sans just in there smoking weed or something. And then you're playing Deltarune, you get an hour in, and then it's just like, what the fuck? He can just go between Undertale and Deltarune. I guess we can too, but we use a different door. We load up the different games, and Sans just hits one of these. What, you haven't seen a guy with 2 jobs before? But yeah, this is why people go crazy about Undertale, because it's just nothing, even now, is ever like 100% confirmed. Very much on purpose, but that's part of the nature of it. That's part of the thing that makes you wanna, you know, play again just for menial shit like that. What happens if I wear the cowboy hat for as long as possible? Like, damn, bro, you're really gonna do another playthrough just for that? You're gonna kill Toriel again? Just to kill her wearing a different pair of shoes? What happens if I murder Toriel on Thursday? She dies. What if I murder her on Friday afternoon? She dies. Is it true you're wearing a gross bandage? Yes. But anyway, yeah, if you do the happy ending, you know, you get to the epilogue, where the name of the protagonist is revealed. At least the protagonist of that specific ending. That coffin doesn't pertain to you anymore then. Because you spend the early game when you first see it, if you happen to see it, believing that it's designated for the character that you're running around as now. But that's not the case if you do the happy ending and are effectively playing as Frisk. So then instead of saying your name on it, or the fallen human's name, as it would have before, once Frisk's name is revealed, it just says it's empty. And then it says that you didn't notice before, but there's like mummy wrappings or whatever, which you start the game every time from the very beginning with a bandage. Right, at first it's just described as a gooey bandage, which, you know, you think it's just a kid with a dirty band-aid. But then with the context of the mummy wrapping and the body and Frisk and Kara and everything else, it's just like, right, this is literally that gooey, rotting body. God knows what the gooey part is, you know. And then, yeah, you don't think about it too much either, but it's repeated more than once that the old tutu is, you know, it's dusty. Which monsters don't have blood, they don't bleed, they turn to dust. Gotta do it. And again, God only knows. And see, it's mostly like a joke, but the human is alluded to being kind of gross, kind of disgusting, right? Which just seems like another just yakking your chain. But when you consider that this might be, again, like we said, the same old rotting body, just, you know, being taken over by another will, another soul, for like the 7th or 8th time now. You recreated the entire multiverse just to smoke weed with Napstablook? You're goddamn right. I don't understand your goals anymore. What the fuck? This is some spooky ass music. I don't think you can say that anymore, brother. But yeah, I agree. What up, Gherkin? Not talking that shit today? Nah, not today. You don't know what that is? You never heard of Deltarune? Don't tell me. And yeah, as you may already know, Deltarune and its lore in real life do predate Undertale by at least a few years, which further supports the idea of Undertale being a fountain. You know, Deltarune and its characters and its world existing first. Yo, what? Undyne, you saved me? I thought I was a goner. Who now? Such profound kindness. Like a fish out of lava. What? It's not a very big world, but still a little confusing sometimes. No proper map function or nothing either. Will you hang out with Undyne? Fuck yeah. I've got no time for this nonsense. Yeah, training with Asgore couldn't fuck him up. One day she did. And then he was like, wow. Temmie Village, the room before the darkening lantern room. Yeah, I know. I was just hanging out with my cousin Temmie, actually. In Temmie Village. It's you? How many letters are in the name Metaton? No! The Metaton segments do take a while, though. It is like the longest individual segment of the game. I wouldn't be surprised if the game was originally intended to be more sequences like this, but it was probably simpler and more practical to incorporate it all into, you know, the currently existing combat menu. Deltarune, of course, gets a little more flashy. You threw the stained apron on the ground like the piece of trash it is. And see, sometimes it says that. So as I was kind of getting into yesterday before, right, my working theory is when you're playing Undertale, you're not really playing... You aren't playing Undertale. I feel like you're playing Chris playing Undertale. And that's why there seems to be another influence that can be taken from you, which is a whole theme of Deltarune as well. But then there still begs the question why this time when I threw away the tutu, it just said I threw it away, and the last time when I threw it away it said something about I bid it adieu. You know, something more sentimental. I don't know if that's just one of those random fun value things that triggers it, or if there's some kind of influence you can have, some subtle influence. But yeah, So Sorry is one of those more secret characters, but from what I understand, it was just like a fan inject kind of thing. Somebody won... It was a... what was it? It was like a Kickstarter thing. Someone got to insert their own original character. Which the character itself, I think, is like canonically... I guess not canonically to like Undertale, but like the dude who made it is like a furry, and it's like his persona that he wanted to insert in here. And some people think that's the reason why it's restricted to a single day, so that there's a very low chance of anybody ever seeing it and being like, man, what the hell is this? But it's there. Are you worried about meeting Asgore? Nope. Are you worried about the Gorat? So, you may or may not realize that this is a bit of a chance encounter. This was not here before. And when you look at it, it's clearly a head, a neck, right, popping out of the ground, and a creepy looking smile. Or it can also be an outstretched body holding its hand out, looking at whatever it's holding. Or it could be a noodly man trying to give itself a blowjob. It can be any of the three. No one is really sure. You don't see this character otherwise. You only see this thing. But you do finally see this character in Deltarune. I understand why Asgore waited so long to hire a new royal scientist. The previous one, Dr. Gaster. His brilliance was irreplaceable. However, his life was cut short. One day, his experiments went wrong, and... well, I needn't gossip. After all, it's rude to talk about someone who's listening. Hi, Office here. Did you just see some scary-ass shit? I don't know what that is. I am scared. And yeah, that's a very specific thing to say. Gaster is listening. Gaster is active. Gaster is watching. Scattered throughout the game itself is, you know, the most common accepted status of the character, I guess. Oh, yeah, like, does that mean that there's just pieces of him scattered actively watching, or is it more that, you know, he's somewhere outside of the game? That's another possibility. Somewhere within the realm that, like, we the player exist in. And that's what I'm thinking, if Gaster is maybe part of this other influence. Or if Gaster is just subject to this influence as well. Huh? Where did you get that? Did you steal it? 7 gold to skip Muffet if you buy the spider donut early on. It's never made too clear exactly what determination is. It's a big thing, right? But it's not just an abstract concept either. Because determination is the thing that lets the player persevere and keep playing the game past the game over, blah blah blah. But it's also a tangible thing in the world of Undertale. It's a source of energy that can be harvested and concentrated. Because that's how Flowey happens. Kara effectively kills themselves so that their soul, you know, will be absorbed by Azrael. And then Azrael, you know, gets covered in those sticky seeds, dies, falls, you know, in the ruins. And then, you know, those flowers are born basically of their combined essences. The soul modes are also weird too, because they're respective to other characters. Right, Sans is represented by the dark blue, Papyrus has that light blue, Undyne, green, yellow for Alphys, and then the other two I think represent Asgore and Toriel, but that's just me going off the Lost Souls. That's just observation more than anything else. But it all plays into that too then, the other influences on the characters. Gaster, Mystery Man, the game itself, whatever, seems to be its own influence, but then so is Kara. And then with Frisk seems to be another interpretation. I think Chris and Kara are both different interpretations of, like, Chris's influence. That's why they're the only true playthroughs. They're the only ones that result in the underground going empty. But Frisk is a passive influence. Frisk has to be completely enabled. It has to be realized by performing certain actions, just like Kara. But you'll notice by the end of the Genocide run, Kara makes a point of habitually, you know, taking control, skipping parts of dialogue, walking by themselves. They kill Flowey by themselves. You never kill Flowey. Kara does it. And then they separate themselves from you, right? Presumably, you're in just the black space with the souls, with the influence, and you're looking that other influence in the face. Right, the game is gone, the fountain is closed, the world is deleted, erased, whatever. And that's why Kara can make it again. Because Chris, as we see, with his glowing red eye and his knife, or with, that's another point too. From what I understand, it's not a major plot point relative to the story itself. But it is worth noting that pretty much every other character in the series is gendered, except for Frisk, Kara, and Chris. Everybody else is always pretty blatantly he or she, but they avoid it with, the protagonist. But yeah, that would explain why Kara, like Chris, is able to just recreate the world. That would make sense with the context of Undertale being a fountain itself. But yeah, going back to Frisk being a passive influence, another thing too that you'll notice is that the only way to truly reset, or at least to change the fallen human and effectively do like a hard reset of the timeline, not just a soft reset, I guess, is to either have done the happy ending or the horrible ending. In both cases, that's the only opportunity you have in... Froggett's the worst one. That's the only opportunities that you have to rename yourself. Is if you, realize Frisk, and then Frisk just passively allows you to restart the world if you want. They willingly give you back control of it. Whereas Kara destroys the world and then only allows you to, bring it back on the condition that you give them your soul. In this context, your soul effectively representing the actual control of the game and the timelines, basically. Which, if you don't already know what that means, you'll see that here in a second. Maybe not in a second, but in a while. But yeah, for that reason, when Deltarune first came out, I was very, very happy that the first thing that they showed was, Undertale, presumably as a video game within the world, because... the more I got into that theory of Undertale being a game canonically, it didn't make as much sense. There seemed to be a lot of conflicting factors. But those factors, all of it started making sense, though, whenever, you started to consider the game as a game within another game. The problem before Deltarune was a thing officially, though, is that, we didn't know what that other game was. And then once, Deltarune was, revealed, well, that for me was just okay, so Deltarune must be that game, but who knows, but... And see, here's the thing, this ambiguous other influence, then, that seems to be another aspect of Deltarune, too. Whether or not that pertains to whatever the night is, or if it pertains to, whatever those gods or titans were. Also, the different types of saving. There's clearly an inherent auto-save running in the background. Undertale remembers. This ambiguous influence seems to be another big story point for Deltarune too, though. Whoever it is that they're talking about constantly. Certain secret characters in Deltarune proper. But yeah, they make it very clear that there is somebody else out there, somebody informed, somebody influential. There's also the whole thing with the neutral endings, because it's assumed that the human, goes back to the world by themselves, to the surface world. But the game's very, very, very clear about reiterating the fact that anything can cross into the barrier but not out. You need a monster and human soul, there's no other way. Azrael, with Kara's soul, was able to leave because it was both souls. But by that point, Kara had effectively, faded or died. Azrael took full control and went back in. And then Azrael died with both souls. And then there's no other instance of anybody else ever being able to leave the underground, human or otherwise. And they make a very strong point of showing you Asgore's soul being destroyed. Mind you, it's also never explicitly stated that you do make it out. You're just spoken to with, that assumption. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. But they make a point of showing Flowey destroying Asgore's soul. And Flowey doesn't have a soul otherwise, so... But you notice there's no... Again, This is one of those things that you could have never picked up on otherwise, right? Because Undertale came out a couple years before the first Deltarune part. But we know already that Deltarune and its characters and a lot of its base lore, pretty much all of it, predates Undertale again. Which means Susie was already a character. Just as well as Frisk, just as well as Azrael, right? So where the fuck is Susie? That's kind of a scary thing to think about too. Because remember, one of the potential prophecies relative to the Deltarune is murdering everybody. And you gotta remember the fact that Susie is literally Chris's bully. And the closest thing we see to Chris, or Chris's likeness in Undertale, is Kara. Frisk already is supposed to look like it, but it's, you know, that's the point of Frisk being an anagram of Chris with like the letter F, is that it's explicitly to state that this is not Chris. That is to say, more accurately, something that Chris isn't or can't be. Good or passive or whatever else. Something that can only come into fruition like in this game or whatever. Whereas the whole murdering everybody thing is more of a, you know, closely related. Despite everything, it's still you. And then whenever you're doing the genocide, it's me. Right? It's Kara. It's this thing. It's this monster. It's this clump of sprites. This clump of pixels looking at itself and acknowledging itself. But in this case, it's you. Right? It's talking to you. Another strange but subtle distinction. Same thing too with all the red text in the genocide run. That's Kara's influence again taking over, as opposed to, right, you unlocked the chain, I unlocked the chain. It makes a very strong point of it that it's not you doing these things anymore. With Frisk, you're technically always controlling them, but that's again because Frisk is a passive influence. They have to be fully realized. They'll never take the control from you, but if you walk their path, you make Frisk, you know what I'm saying? You have to embody them. That's the only way Frisk exists. By their passive nature. That's the only way they can exist. Whereas Kara kind of comes into fruition in the same way. They're resurrected by your actions. But once they're strong enough, they're just like, cool, go fuck yourself. And they just take over. And past that point, the only way they let you play Undertale again is if you agree to have them maintain control. You have to give up your soul. Again, you can never go back. This world is effectively damned. And it's your fault. You do it. And again, realizing Frisk and reaching the end of the game where everyone's happy, that's like the true end of Undertale is like the menu, where it only gives you the option to do a true reset. That is Frisk passively and willingly relinquishing control back to you. That's, you are effectively taking their soul. You gave life to Frisk just to take the control away. Which, you know, think about the way that I played it on that, you know, our first playthrough was, you know, the pacifist happy ending. We did it all good. We realized Frisk. I did that, again, with all of this knowledge in mind, specifically then to, I guess you could say, breathe life into the game. And then I immediately, after doing that, took it away with a true reset, went out of my way to name the character Kara, and then did the whole murder thing. Because the way I do it, it's not enough to just go on a murdering spree. I have to, you know what I'm saying, I have to create the happy world first so that I can take it away. Which characters like Sans are implied to, you know, recall, at least at an emotional level. Flowey is a little more blatant. Flowey understands what you've done, and that's why Flowey doesn't show up again, because Flowey's terrified of you. They only show up as per their prompt. They show up as part of the routine because they know they have to. They're like at the mercy. But any other thing, you'll notice that Flowey stops like showing up to talk shit to you because yeah, they're scared. They're terrified of you. They're not gonna fuck with you anymore. And they realize what you are. They remember everything. So Flowey remembers me doing the first run, erasing it, killing everybody, killing them, and then like at some point they just woke up like, oh fuck, we're here again. Sans can't explicitly remember like in detail, but like he can remember it at the emotional level. So he doesn't remember the specifics of what happened, but like, you know, he knows you're doing this shit again, but he can't distrust you because you've done nothing untrustworthy in this timeline, even though he can feel probably that you are a piece of shit. He knows, but he can't act otherwise. There's a name engraved on it, Sully. It's empty. But again, you know now that this is not, at the very least, Sully. Whether you realize Frisk or not, this is not the first human. It's only ever, quote-unquote, Sully, or more accurately, the first human, or Kara. But the only way that information is really revealed is at the end of the happy ending and, you know, if you come back, which we did. But then once you are aware that this is Frisk, then it, you know, makes you think like, well then who is Sully then, right? Who am I? Who is the first human, or Kara? And again, going back to the bandage, there's some people who are already, you know, kind of in agreement with that same theory, that at the very least, the first human and this human, the protagonist, the first and eighth, a lot of people have shared that theory as well, that they share that same body. For me, that's basically definitive. I don't think you can deny it. I think you gotta try real hard to deny it, because it seems blatant and stressed that that is in fact the case. Those characters are born of influence. It's either the nameless protagonist, presumably you, and then on one end of the prophecy it's Frisk, and at the end of the other end of the prophecy it's Kara. Both of which I think, like I said, are the influence of Chris. It could be that Frisk is something else though, but it's just, you know, the names are too closely associated. Of course, Chris is also an anagram of risk, but you know, it's hard to attribute that to anything either. And see, the barrier's just a corridor. There's like no going out. It's seemingly endless. It's just, it doesn't seem to be like a wall. It just seems to be like a void of space, like an infinite space. So the soul, I think, represents less you, the player, and more your influence. That's what the soul is the influence, the control over the game, not so much your presence. And that's why the soul can be, you know, kind of manipulated. And in Deltarune, again, yeah, you literally struggle for control over the soul with Chris. Or control over Chris, rather, with your soul. But in Undertale, you're fighting over control of the soul with Kara. The autosave, then, must have something to do with this other influence. Because there is an inherent autosave. There's like the deeper save, right, in that Undertale remembers things even after you complete a certain playthrough or another. Right, that goes beyond just the surface level save data. But again, it's made very, very clear to you that saving is associated with determination and the soul and a will, so it's less an autosave and more of a background save. Somebody else is saving, right? Whenever you die in a boss fight and you respawn right outside of the door with the same conditions that you saved at the last save point at, even if that save point was a room or two before, that shouldn't happen, right? Because what's the point of a save point then? How did you reload somewhere else? Damn. I should have gotten the butterscotch pie. I don't think I've used it, but I don't think I can access it from the dimensional boxes either. I guess I used the butterscotch. I must have used the butterscotch pie by accident and then like saved over it. Oh well. So the bandage, the dagger, the locket, the difference in the way that they're referenced playthrough to playthrough. Because Kara refers to it as the real knife, whereas Frisk refers to it as, or just the protagonist otherwise, refers to it as worn dagger, meaning it's been used. Someone was using it to kill. Right, the dagger being worn, as well as the bandages being used multiple times, quote unquote, and, you know, being sticky and goopy. I feel like every playthrough up to this point was just a murder one, you know. You're the chance to change it or to finally seal its fate, which you've seen the path that I chose. Yeah. So that is how it is. I remember the day my son died. The entire underground was devoid of hope. The future had once again been taken from us by the humans. In a fit of anger, I declared war. I said that I would destroy any human that came here. And all the boss monsters are like ageless, you know, which that's what Asgore, Toriel, and Azrael all are. They're boss monsters. So they don't age, and their origins are one with the game, you know. They've always existed. Soon the people's hope returned. My wife, however, became disgusted with my actions. She left this place never to be seen again. Truthfully, I do not want power. I do not want to hurt anyone. I just wanted everyone to have hope, but I cannot take this any longer. I just want to see my wife. I want to see my child. Please, young one, this one has gone on long enough. Take my soul and leave this cursed place. Nah, you can't. No matter what, Flowey destroys the soul. After everything I have done to hurt you, you would rather stay down here and suffer than live happily on the surface. For as long as you remain here, my wife and I will take care of you as best we can. We can sit in the living room telling stories, eating butterscotch pie. We could be like a family. Doesn't seem that way. You haven't learned a thing. And see, look at this too. Right, you're in this dark void, but there's still the human, there's still the sprite. And they also step up to Flowey by themselves. And that's worth noting too, the way that the other souls spawn in the same way. They are something tangible and influential. But of course they just disappear. The tough glove. Yeah, see, save states. No checkpoint or anything else needed. And multiple files. Probably one for each soul, right? And the soul's rebelling, that's still kind of a weird one too. Well, it goes to show that whatever the player effectively actually represents is stronger than whatever the soul represents. Like I said, I think the soul isn't the player, but rather gameplay. What you make of it and the actions that become the story. That's the soul. And that's why it can be manipulated even by the game. It can restrict your control and do all that. Because the game and the player are something separate from the soul and the characters, the NPCs. Flowey ran away. With his legs? Thunder Snail. And see, that's another thing too. That's why if you reset, it only resets progress. The human remains named whatever you named them. Again, unless you do the happy ending or the terrible ending. In which case, they both create conditions where you can do either a true reset or the world is erased and you bargain for its return, you know? Because those are actual ends to the story. Everything else is just a reset. That's all it is a reset. So yeah, neutral runs exist on a closed loop, and then pacifist and genocide runs, I guess, are true ends and have to effectively manifest a new world, which is why both options allow you to rename the human. But of course, the only true reset is the true reset. That's the only one that resets every single condition. Because really, yeah, this isn't even really a reset after you bad ending, you know? It's a recreation. It's like a remake, a reconstruction. Whereas a true reset brings the pre-existing thing into, like, literally to zero. Completely restores it. Despite what seems like common sense, you threw away the letter. What? You lost the letter? What the heck? Why? This is unbelievable. I should be really disappointed in you, but to tell you the truth, I'm kind of relieved. While you were gone, I actually wrote a way better letter. This time you won't lose it. I guarantee it. You got the Undyne letter EX. It has "Don't drop it" written on it. The letter is too powerful to throw away. It gets the better of you. Damn. I was out-muscled by some stationery. Tralale, tralili, lali lulelo. Hey, aren't you Satan from Shin Megami Tensei 5? No. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, it's all coming together. And see, Shin Megami's got like a weird kind of meta, right? Because, and I don't mean like gameplay meta. I mean like meta reality type of thing. Because they seem to comprehend, you know, you being the Nahobino and reshaping the world in your image. That's a very metaphorical expression of basically the same thing you're doing in like Undertale. You're taking control of the world. That's the point of the cycles, right? You're reshaping the world and then like just going through it again. You, the Nahobino, effectively remember everything. You're going through the motions again, doing and saying the right thing. But instead of being meta in the way that Undertale is, and it's just like, haha, it's part of the story, that's like the whole thing, the conflict of gods and whatnot. It doesn't revolve around it, it's got a deeper story than that, whereas Undertale does revolve around it, to the point that it's like its lifeblood. But it plays out the same way with the cycles and the nature of them. This is where you and Undyne do what all the time? Hi Undyne, how are you? I'm fine. Haha, glad to hear it. And then she kisses you. What? I kiss her back softly. I look gently into her eyes. I start hollering. I love you. What? You guys have Gundams in real life, right? No. No. I can feel my heart breaking into pieces. What are you doing? Oh. Hey, y'all shut the fuck up. I got you guys some food. Oh, fuck yeah, we love food. I've chosen a candidate. I haven't told Asgore yet because I want to surprise him with it. In the center of his garden, there's something special. The first golden flower that grew before all the others. The flower from the outside world. It appeared just before the queen left. What happens when something without a soul gains the will to live? Entry number 18. The flower's gone. It's a voice you have never heard before. Are you there? It's been a long time, hasn't it? Azrael, maybe? Which would just be Flowey. Serial murderer. Oh yeah, huh? Oh, nuh-uh. And see, this was a form of saving too. It saved my last dreams. It saved, you know, the progress of the fight. There's a lot of soul magic happening right now. Oh, fuck. Someone else. As your friends remembered you, something else began resonating within soul, stronger and stronger. It seems that there's still one last person that needs to be saved, but who? You feel your friends' souls resonating within Azrael. So even monsters have determination. So did Alphys just extract determination from other monsters? You know, for the amalgams? Or maybe extracted... I don't know if you can extract the determination from a monster after they're dead, right? Because they can't persist. That's why they turn to dust. They don't even stick around long enough to rot or metabolize or anything because they're magic. Inherently, you know. So that's all Flowey is. It's the husk of, you know, Azrael's body, Azrael's person, I guess. With whatever, you know, small remnants of the first human soul. You pair that with like some determination, right? Basically just a raw vessel for determination and nothing else without an actual soul. That's why Flowey was able to do, you know, human-esque kind of things. But is immediately overridden by an actual human soul. And in order to truly fulfill, like Kara then, or Kara's character, you have to give up your soul, really. Because then they have the soul finally. It's not just like their aspect that's brought to life, you give them effectively your soul. And I didn't go with Toriel last time, because I had things to do, which we saw exactly what those things were, but now those things are done, so now I want to stay with Toriel. Scary credits. And yeah, there you go. There's your consequence.